just happened. We just found out that Charlie Kirk got shot.
It's fucking awful.
And is he dead?
Guys, we are talking about weird behavior, rumored music, links to very shady individuals, and most shockingly, her shocking ascended to the CEO of Turning Point USA. I am telling you, you are not ready for the shocking details Joe Rogan just provided. So buckle up and get ready as we answer the biggest question everyone has been asking. Why did no one see that Erica Kirk was a huge walking red flag from the beginning? If you want people to lose all faith that anyone is going to solve anything, you add a bunch of if you're going to kill a guy, you add a bunch of other wacky, that doesn't make any sense, and you spam it out there at the same time. You leave a gun that didn't do it out in the woods, you do a bunch of like that. You have an old man put his dick out and yell, I did it, I did it, I did it. Yeah, you get some kid who has a boyfriend who's a furry and you talk to him on Discord. On September 10th, 2025, a single event sent a seismic shock through the heart of American politics. The assassination of Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, and a figure who could command both fervent admiration and intense criticism, wasn't just a tragedy. It was a national rupture. The initial reports of a shooting at a university event were devastating enough, but in the days and weeks that followed, a far more disturbing and complex narrative began to unravel, one that would captivate and deeply unsettle observers across the entire political spectrum. When the news broke, the reaction was immediate and visceral. On his podcast, Joe Rogan captured the initial raw shock that many felt. His response was unfiltered, a gut punch of disgust aimed at the depraved corners of the internet where people were actually celebrating the murder. He condemned this moral decay in stark, unflinching terms. But as the initial fog of horror began to lift, Rogan's focus, like that of so many others, began to shift. The story was no longer just about the act itself, but about the bizarre and unsettling aftermath. The strange behavior of those closest to Kirk, the rapid consolidation of power, and the growing list of inconsistencies turned a simple, though tragic crime into a sprawling mystery. Rogan started voicing the question on everyone's mind: why does nothing about this feel right? This is the story of how a political assassination morphed into a full-blown conspiracy, where the search for a killer became a search for the truth, and where the most shocking allegations pointed not to a stranger in the crowd, but to the inner circle Charlie Kirk called his own. And then all eyes turned to Erica Kirk. In the immediate aftermath, rather than retreating from the public eye, she leaned in hard. She took to Instagram, posting raw, tearful videos of herself sobbing over Charlie's open casket. The clips instantly went viral, amassing millions of views and triggering a massive wave of sympathy from her followers. But for many watching, a deep sense of unease began to creep in. Critics couldn't help but question the motivation behind broadcasting such an intimate, vulnerable moment. The act of filming oneself in profound grief felt to a growing number of observers deeply calculated. The whisper started: was this genuine mourning, or was Erica Kirk commodifying her husband's death for public sympathy before he was even buried? Any doubt about her approach to public grief was shattered just 3 days later at Charlie's memorial service, held at the massive State Farm Stadium in Arizona. It drew thousands of mirrors to honor his legacy. But the moment everyone remembers was Erica's entrance. It wasn't a quiet, solemn walk, it was a spectacle. She arrived at the roar of pyrotechnics music and blaring triumphant music, a production more fitting for a WWE wrestler stepping into the ring than a widow entering her husband's funeral. The sheer theatricality music of it stunned attendees and viewers at home. Social media immediately erupted. The comparisons to sports entertainment were instant and brutal, but the most damning criticism came from within Charlie's own circles. And this is precisely where the story goes from a tragic drama to a full-blown conspiracy in the eyes of many. In a move that made everyone do a double take, Erica Kirk was officially appointed the CEO of Turning Point USA, a mere 72 hours after Charlie was assassinated. Let that timeline sink in: 72 hours. In the space of a single long weekend, she went from grieving widow at a pyrotechnic-fueled memorial to the official leader of a multi-million-dollar political powerhouse. The speed was breathtaking, and to critics, it revealed a chilling level of coordination. It fueled the burning question: was this a sudden tragic necessity, or had Erica been prepped and positioned for this moment all along? This was the point where figures like Joe Rogan really leaned into their skepticism. Rogan went on his podcast and urged his massive audience to look past the emotion and start asking the hard, uncomfortable questions about the inconsistencies. The official story wasn't just messy, it was moving at a pace that seemed designed to prevent anyone from getting a clear look. He challenged people to wonder what was truly happening behind the polished public-facing curtain. Adding another layer of mystery was the ghost-like absence of Charlie's own parents. During the massive stadium memorial, the cameras somehow never found Robert and Catherine Kirk. In an event meticulously produced and broadcast, their silence and lack of presence were a screaming omission. Their absence wasn't just noted, it became a central piece of the puzzle. Was their grief too music, profound for the spotlight? Or were they being deliberately sidelined, frozen out by a new regime that saw them as a threat to the emerging narrative? The picture being painted was no longer just of a grieving organization, but of a palace coup executed with a swiftness and efficiency that left no room for the messy human reality of grief. But what truly exploded the situation into a full-blown music, can't look away national drama was when Candace Owens joined the conversation. Candace shared a screenshot from a private group text conversation involving music, Charlie Kirk himself. She said she was initially hesitant to make it public out of respect for Charlie's privacy, even in death, but the rapidly shifting official narrative and the stonewalling she felt from authorities left her with no choice but to share it with government investigators. Once the existence of this text was out, it became a music catalyst for wildfire speculation. What did it say? Who was it about? The mere suggestion of a private paper trail sent online sleuths into a frenzy. This is where Joe Rogan connected the dots on a grand scale, introducing a theory that would define music, the scandal. He theorized that the root of the falling out between Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk in the months before his death wasn't music, about politics. It was about Erica. According to Rogan's sources, Candace had been warning Charlie about Erica's growing influence behind the scenes at Turning Point USA. The concerns reportedly centered on Erica's interactions with major donors and her potential manipulation of the organization's financial decisions. But instead of heeding the warning, Charlie reportedly pulled away from Candace, a rift that insiders believe was fueled by a counter-narrative being fed to him by Erica. This revelation was explosive. It painted a picture of a manipulative wife alienating her husband from his closest allies, and it reframed Music Charlie's death as the potential culmination of a poisonous power struggle within his own home. Amidst this, Candace Owens continued her frontal assault on the official investigation. She relentlessly criticized the FBI, music, hammering them with critical questions that resonated with a skeptical public. Why the rush to declare Tyler Music, Robinson a lone wolf? And why were key pieces of evidence being trickled out in confusing fragments music, with crucial details seemingly withheld? The case was no longer about a single shooter. It was now a sprawling saga of betrayal, manipulation, and a cover-up with the widow, the best friend, and the world's most powerful music, law enforcement agency all playing their part. Joe Rogan's skepticism wasn't born in a vacuum. It was rooted in the glaring inconsistencies music, and the sheer unmissable theatricality of it all. In a matter of weeks, the public watched Erica Kirk transform from a private spouse music into a formidable public CEO, commanding a level of influence she never had while her husband was music, alive. The conservative movement that once united behind Charlie Kirk is now deeply fractured. His parents remain in a music silence that speaks volumes. While old friends and allies have quietly distanced themselves from Turning Music Point USA under Erica's new leadership, even a figure like Donald Trump, never one to shy away from commentary, has been conspicuously quiet about her rise, a silence many interpret as telling. What we are left with is a stark, unsettling music image. A woman who, whether by design or destiny, turned a profound personal tragedy music into a platform for immense public power. She has in effect transformed an assassination into an opportunity. The story of Charlie Kirk is no longer just a tale of a life tragically music, cut short. It has become a complex, dark narrative about power, performance, and the optics of grief.